The alarms blared through the empty halls of the remote medical station on the red desert planet of Cryos 7. Smoke curled from a distant hangar, and the metallic walls shook from some unseen impact. Most of the staff ran to the control rooms or emergency stations, but Edrin Vale stayed hidden behind a support column, his heart hammering in his chest. He was a boy of 14, small and quiet, used to watching the world from the sidelines. Courage, he thought bitterly, was something his father had, not him. Edrin's father, Dr. Kalen Vale, was the best medic in the sector. He had saved countless lives in wars and accidents across the galaxy. People called him brave, calm, and skilled. Edrin had grown up trying to imitate him but always falling short. While his father faced dangers with steady hands, Edrin often froze in fear. He felt like a shadow of his own father, trapped in the safety of walls he did not build. From his hiding place, Edrin peeked toward the hangar doors. A massive shape loomed in the dust outside, dragging itself slowly toward the station. Its scales shimmered in dull green and gold under the planet's twin suns. Edrin froze. His eyes widened as he realized the creature was not just large, it was a dragon. An ancient, spacefaring dragon that legends had said was extinct. Stories told of them destroying starships, burning entire outposts, and vanishing into hyperspace only to reappear centuries later. The dragon stumbled forward, its wings torn and one leg bent at an odd angle. Dust and blood clung to its scales. Its eyes, enormous and amber, blinked slowly. They were not filled with rage but pain. Edrin noticed it barely moved its massive head, and when it hissed, it was more a groan than a threat. For a moment he felt something strange, a pull toward it like the dragon was calling him. The security officers had already arrived. They were armed, shouting orders, ready to shoot if the creature moved too quickly. Edrin's stomach twisted. "They'll kill it," he whispered to himself. Fear ran down his spine, but beneath it was something new, a flicker of resolve. He had watched his father save lives that others abandoned. He knew the right choice even if he felt too small to make it. Edrin crept toward the control panel beside the hangar. He studied the dragon through the reinforced glass. Its chest heaved with labored breaths. Sparks flew from the engines of a nearby shuttle that had crashed during the dragon's landing. The dragon had clearly survived a crash that would have killed most creatures. Edrin's mind raced. He knew he could not call his father. Kalen was already inside helping the injured staff from the hangar collapse. And if the soldiers panicked, the dragon would not survive. The boy ran quietly to the medical bay, gathering bandages, antiseptics, and the tools his father had taught him to use. He had watched Kalen treat burns, broken bones, and alien infections countless times, memorizing every motion. His hands shook as he held the tools, but he kept moving. Step by step, he followed the hallways to the hangar, listening to the shouts and the alarms echoing behind him. When he reached the hangar, the dragon turned its massive head slightly, noticing him for the first time. Its gaze was piercing yet curious. Edrin stopped in his tracks. His voice caught in his throat, but he whispered, "I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to help." To his surprise, the dragon's chest rose slightly as if acknowledging his words. It did not lunge or roar, it remained still. Edrin approached carefully, keeping his hands visible. He saw the injuries more clearly now. One wing was torn, the edges jagged like broken metal. Its leg was twisted, and a deep gash ran along its side. The dragon's scales had a metallic sheen, and its body radiated warmth. Despite its pain, it did not seem afraid of him. That small trust ignited something in Edrin. He realized courage was not the absence of fear. It was acting even when fear was crushing you. He knelt beside the dragon, fumbling with the bandages. The creature hissed softly, not in anger but in discomfort. Edrin worked quickly, cleaning wounds, wrapping torn flesh, and applying antiseptic. Sweat dripped down his forehead, but he did not stop. Every movement reminded him of his father's lessons. Be calm, steady, and kind. He whispered reassurances, telling the dragon he would not leave it. Suddenly, a soldier's voice rang out. "Step away, kid. That thing's dangerous." Edrin's heart leaped. He could run, hide, or obey like he always had. But when he looked at the dragon's tired eyes, he could not. The dragon needed him. He stood up, hands still full of medical tools, and faced the soldiers. "It's dying," he said, voice shaking but loud enough for them to hear. "If you shoot it, it will die. Please, let me help it." There was silence for a moment. The dragon shifted slightly, its massive wing brushing the ground near Edrin, almost like it was supporting him. The soldiers looked at each other, unsure. None of them had ever seen a human approach a dragon without fear. Edrin's heart raced, but he held his ground. He was just a boy, but for the first time he felt the weight of something bigger than himself, the chance to save a life when no one else would. Step by step, he returned to the dragon, carefully tending to the wounds. Dust and smoke swirled around them, but the boy did not notice. He was focused on each breath the dragon took, each movement, each pulse of life. In those moments he felt a strange connection, as if the dragon understood that he was there for it, not to harm it. The legends had always spoken of dragons recognizing courage, and now he understood what that meant. As the twin suns of Cryos 7 dipped lower on the horizon, casting red and gold light across the hangar, Edrin finally allowed himself to believe. He was small, young, and inexperienced, but he was brave. Not because he had no fear, but because he had chosen to act despite it. And in doing so, he had taken the first step toward a journey that would change him forever. For the first time he was not hiding behind courage. He was standing in it. The hangar was quiet now, except for the low, labored breaths of the dragon. Dust hung in the air like mist, and the red light of the setting suns made the scales of the creature glow faintly. Edrin crouched beside it, his hands shaking, trying to keep the bandages in place. He had never thought he would touch a dragon, let alone help one survive. The reality of what he was doing pressed on him, and a shiver ran down his spine. Dr. Kalen Vale's voice came from a collapsed section of the hangar. "Edrin, stay safe." His father was pinned under a fallen beam, trying to help an injured engineer. Edrin swallowed hard. He knew his father could handle himself, but he couldn't leave the dragon alone. The creature's breathing was shallow, and every time it moved, Edrin feared it might collapse entirely. He looked around. The soldiers were still outside the hangar, keeping their distance but watching closely. One wrong move from the dragon and they would attack. Edrin felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He was just a boy, small and inexperienced, but in this moment he had a choice. He could run, hide behind safety and let the dragon die. Or he could act. He chose to act. Edrin gathered a few more medical supplies, remembering the lessons his father had taught him. First aid was about calm hands and steady motions. Fear could be dangerous, but care could save lives. He approached the dragon slowly, keeping his voice soft. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to help," he whispered. The dragon hissed softly, but it was not a sound of anger. Its huge amber eyes followed him, curious and wary. Edrin noticed its chest heaving, its wings trembling slightly. He realized that even a small movement might hurt the creature, but he had no choice. He needed to help it stand, to clean the wounds that burned and ached. Using a long, sturdy cloth, he gently lifted part of the dragon's torn wing. Its scales were hot to the touch and blood mixed with dust and sand. Edrin worked quickly but carefully, pressing antiseptic on the deep cuts, wrapping bandages around the torn flesh. His hands were trembling, but he did not stop. Each breath the dragon took was a reminder that time was slipping away. Suddenly, a metallic clang echoed through the hangar. One of the soldiers had moved closer. Edrin froze. His heart raced. The dragon's head lifted slightly, and its eyes locked on the human. For a moment, Edrin feared it would attack, but then the creature lowered its head again as if trusting him. Edrin realized something important. Fear was shared between humans and dragons, but trust could be shared too. Even the fiercest beings could sense care and kindness. He kept speaking softly, trying to calm both the dragon and the tension in the hangar. "I know you're hurt," he said, "but I can help you. You have to let me." With that, he lifted a water container and offered it to the dragon's mouth. It sniffed at it cautiously, then drank slowly, showing signs of life returning. Edrin felt a small relief. This was working. He was helping. Even if the soldiers outside did not understand, even if he was terrified, he was doing the right thing. He glanced toward the collapsed section where his father lay. "I'm okay, Dad," he whispered. "I can handle this." He had always relied on his father's courage, but now he understood something he had never known. Courage was not only about strength or skill. It was about making a choice when no one else would, even when your hands shook and your knees wanted to give way. The dragon let out a low, rumbling sound. Edrin looked up and saw it slowly trying to move its head closer. Its breath was hot on his face and a strange warmth spread through him. For the first time he felt a connection beyond words. He was not just helping a creature, he was sharing trust, and that trust made both of them stronger. Edrin heard the soldiers outside murmur among themselves. "Is he really doing this?" one asked. Another shook his head. A kid? Helping a dragon? Their disbelief only strengthened Edrin's resolve. He would not stop. Not now. Not ever. He carefully checked the dragon's leg, noticing a deep gash near the joint. He worked to clean it, using strips of cloth as a temporary bandage. The dragon hissed, flinching at first, but then it stayed still. Edrin whispered, "I know it hurts. I know it's bad. But you can get through this. I won't leave you." His voice was small, but it carried something stronger than fear, determination. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. The suns of Cryos 7 sank lower, and the red light faded into twilight. Edrin was exhausted, but he did not stop. Sweat dripped down his face and his arms ached from holding bandages and tools. The dragon shifted slightly, showing signs of relief. Its breathing grew steadier. Edrin realized that he had made a real difference. Then, from the hangar entrance, a voice rang out, sharp and urgent. "Step away from the creature. You're endangering yourself." A soldier raised his weapon. Edrin froze, but the dragon lifted its head and nudged him gently, a silent warning to stay calm. He took a deep breath and held up his hands. "I'm helping it. It will die if I leave." His voice did not shake as much as before. He was scared, but he was no longer powerless. The soldier hesitated, seeing the dragon's size and its calm reaction to the boy. No one had ever seen a human act like this. Fear and awe mixed in the air. The dragon's amber eyes remained on Edrin, trusting him completely. In that moment, the boy understood something essential. Bravery was not about being fearless. It was about standing firm when others would run, about choosing life when it seemed easier to give up. Edrin knelt beside the dragon again, feeling its warm scales under his hands. He whispered reassurances, cleaned the remaining wounds, and wrapped the last bandages carefully. For the first time, he realized he had done something no one else could. He had chosen courage. He had chosen to care when everyone else would have walked away. And the dragon, sensing his resolve, seemed to understand. It lowered its massive head, resting near him, its breathing calmer than it had been since the crash. Edrin smiled faintly, tired but proud. He had made a choice no one else would make, and in doing so, he had discovered a bravery he never knew he had. As the night fell over the red sands of Cryos 7, Edrin sat with the dragon, ready for whatever challenges would come next. He was no longer just a boy hiding behind his father's courage. He was a healer, a protector, and for the first time, truly brave. The hangar was quiet except for the slow, steady breathing of the dragon and the soft hum of emergency lights. Dust swirled around the wreckage of shuttles and broken panels, painting the air in shades of red and gold. Edrin Vale wiped sweat from his forehead, feeling the ache in his arms and the soreness in his legs. Yet he did not stop. The dragon was alive and it depended on him. Fear was still there, prickling in his chest, but something stronger pushed him forward. Outside the hangar, the soldiers whispered among themselves. Their weapons were ready, but no one moved to enter. A boy alone, tending to a legendary creature, was not something they expected. Some shook their heads in disbelief, while others muttered doubts about the dragon's temperament. Edrin knew that any sudden move from the dragon could be seen as a threat, and the soldiers would act. One wrong step and everything could be destroyed. He knelt beside the creature, carefully lifting its wing to check for any hidden tears. Its massive body was warm under his hands, and the scales felt surprisingly smooth. The dragon's amber eyes followed him, watching every motion. For a moment, Edrin froze, unsure if he should continue. He felt the weight of the world pressing down on him. He was just a boy, but the dragon's life rested in his hands. Then he remembered his father's words from years of quiet lessons. Courage is not being without fear, Edrin. It is acting when fear is there, steady hands in the chaos. Even a small hand can make a difference if it does not give up. The memory gave him strength. He took a deep breath and continued to work, cleaning the dragon's wounds and applying fresh bandages. The dragon shifted slightly, letting out a low rumble. Its movement was slow, careful, but it was moving. Edrin encouraged it softly, "That's it, you're doing great, we can get through this." His voice was calm even as his heart raced. He had never spoken to anyone like this before, not in a comforting way. Not to a creature so large and feared. But the dragon seemed to understand. Its head lowered slightly, and it let him touch the damaged wing without resistance. Suddenly, a loud clanging noise echoed through the hangar. One of the soldiers had moved closer, stepping over debris. Edrin's stomach twisted. The dragon tensed, lifting its massive head. Its wings stretched slightly, a warning signal. Edrin froze, unsure if he should intervene or let the soldier retreat. Then he realized the truth: he could not run. If the soldiers attacked, the dragon would be harmed. And if he acted now, he could prevent it. He stood, holding his hands up and speaking clearly. "Stop. Don't come any closer. It's hurt. If you touch it, it will die." His voice shook at first, but he pushed past the fear. The soldiers hesitated, shocked that a boy dared to challenge them. The dragon's gaze shifted to the soldiers, massive and calm, yet protective of Edrin. They could see the truth in the moment. The boy was not just frightened, he was determined. Edrin stepped closer to the dragon, placing himself between it and the soldiers. "I am the only one who can help it right now," he said. "Please, just let me do this." His heart raced, but he did not flinch. Fear was there, but it no longer controlled him. He felt something else growing inside, resolve. This was his choice and he would see it through. The dragon rumbled softly, almost like a reply. Its massive head lowered closer to him and it nudged him gently. Edrin understood. It trusted him even though he was small and inexperienced. That trust gave him courage stronger than any fear he had ever felt. He returned to his work, cleaning the last deep cuts and applying antiseptic. Every motion was careful, deliberate. He whispered to the dragon as he worked, telling it to stay calm, to hold on. Time passed slowly. The twin suns of Cryos 7 had set completely, and the hangar was bathed in the soft glow of emergency lights. The soldiers remained outside, unsure what to do, their disbelief growing. They had never seen a human act like this, not alone, not against something so massive and feared. Edrin did not care about their disbelief. He focused on the dragon, listening to its breathing, watching for any signs of weakness. Finally, the dragon shifted again, stronger this time. Its chest rose more steadily and it made no sudden movements. Edrin smiled faintly, exhaustion and relief mixing in his chest. He had done it. The dragon was alive and it was starting to recover. His hands were scratched and sore, his clothes torn, but he felt an unfamiliar pride. He had faced his fear and acted. He glanced toward the entrance where the soldiers were still watching. One stepped forward, unsure. He's really helping it," another whispered. Edrin held up a hand to stop any further movement. "Leave it alone," he said firmly. "You don't understand. It's not dangerous. Not right now." The soldiers hesitated again, clearly torn between orders and the strange bond they were witnessing. The dragon lowered its massive head fully to the ground, letting out a soft, warm rumble. Edrin reached out and placed a hand gently on its snout. The warmth of its breath touched his face. In that moment, he realized that fear did not have to vanish for courage to exist. Bravery was not about fighting monsters or defying danger for glory. It was about choosing to act when the world expected you to run, choosing to care when others would abandon hope. Edrin knelt beside the dragon again, working on its legs and cleaning small wounds he had not reached before. The creature remained still, trusting him completely. He whispered words of encouragement, repeating them over and over. "You can make it, you're stronger than you know. I'm not leaving." Each word felt heavy with meaning, but he knew it was right. Hours passed and the dragon's breathing steadied further. Edrin finally allowed himself a small sigh, leaning against its warm scales. He was tired, sore, and his hands ached, but he had done something incredible. He had faced his fear and chosen resolve over retreat. In the shadow of one of the most feared creatures in the galaxy, a small human boy had discovered something larger than himself: his own bravery. The hangar was quiet now, the dust settling around them. The soldiers had withdrawn slightly, unsure how to react to the scene before them. The dragon lay still but alive, and Edrin remained beside it, calm and resolute. He was no longer just a boy hiding behind courage. He had found it inside himself, and nothing, not even fear, could take it away. The hangar was quiet, but the calm did not last long. Word of the dragon and the boy who cared for it had spread faster than anyone expected. Scouts and observers from nearby colonies arrived in sleek ships, hovering above Cryos 7. Their sensors scanned the hangar, expecting chaos, destruction, or at least a warning shot. What they found instead was almost unbelievable: a small human boy kneeling beside a massive dragon, tending to its wounds with careful, steady hands. Edrin Vale did not notice the new arrivals at first. He was focused entirely on the dragon. Its breathing had become slower, more even, and the deep cuts and bruises were starting to heal with the bandages and care he had applied. The creature's amber eyes followed him constantly, filled with something almost like understanding. Edrin spoke softly, "You're doing great, just hold on, we can get through this together." From above, one observer spoke into a communicator. "Sensors confirm, it's real. A human is inside the hangar with the dragon, and it's not attacking." The voice was filled with disbelief. No one had ever witnessed a human act alone with one of these creatures and survive. Many believed dragons were unstoppable, intelligent only in their own ways, but no human could approach one without dying or being thrown aside. Yet here was proof to the contrary. The dragon shifted slightly, nudging Edrin with its massive snout. The boy flinched at first but quickly steadied himself. "I'm right here. You're safe," he whispered. He realized then that the dragon was not just surviving because of him. In a strange way, it was trusting him completely. That trust was returned with every careful motion, every whispered word. Back outside, the soldiers who had initially barred entry were still uneasy. "I've never seen anything like this," one muttered. "A kid, tending a dragon, like it's just another animal." Another shook his head. "He's changing everything they taught us about them." Edrin heard none of this, but the dragon must have sensed the attention. Its wings twitched slightly and it raised its head, massive and regal, almost as if it knew the galaxy was watching. Edrin worked steadily, checking the dragon's injuries and cleaning small abrasions that had gone unnoticed. Every touch and word seemed to calm the creature further. It was strange to think of a dragon as gentle, yet here it was, responding to care with quiet patience. He realized that bravery was not about fighting or winning battles. It was about choosing to protect when others expected you to flee. The observers above began sending messages to nearby colonies and outposts. Holographic images showed the boy and the dragon to scientists, medics, and leaders across multiple systems. Some were skeptical at first. Legends of space dragons included stories of death and destruction, not gentle trust. But the live images left no doubt. A human boy was standing beside a dragon, helping it heal, and nothing else mattered. Inside the hangar, Edrin noticed movement in the shadows. Dr. Kalen Vale had finally freed himself from the fallen beam and was approaching slowly, his eyes wide. He had watched from a distance as his son worked tirelessly. "Edrin, you did all this?" he whispered. The boy nodded without looking up. "I couldn't leave it," he said simply. "It needed me, and I had to try." Kalen felt a mixture of pride and disbelief. His son had stepped into a moment no adult dared face and acted with courage he had never seen before. The dragon rumbled softly, low in its throat. It lowered its enormous head to the ground, resting near Edrin once more. The warmth radiating from its body pressed against the boy's legs, and he felt a calmness unlike anything he had known. The creature trusted him, and in that trust, Edrin discovered something about himself. Strength did not come from size or experience. It came from the choice to act when fear pressed on every side. From the observation ships above, one voice finally broke the silence. "We have to report this. No one will believe it otherwise. This human, he isn't just brave. He's remarkable." Orders came down for careful monitoring. No one was to disturb the hangar or the dragon. The galaxy was watching now, and every eye was on Edrin and the creature beside him. Edrin noticed the dragon stirring, lifting one massive claw and then carefully testing the strength of its leg. It was slow, awkward, but there was improvement. The boy smiled faintly. "See? You're getting stronger. Just a little more," he whispered. Each word was full of patience, care, and something like hope. He realized that bravery was not about grand gestures. It was about steady, quiet actions that mattered the most. The soldiers finally lowered their weapons, watching with mixed fear and respect. Even they could not deny the truth. The dragon was not attacking. The boy was not afraid. And somehow, together, they had created a calm impossible to break. It was a lesson the galaxy would not forget. Sometimes the smallest hands could do the biggest work, and courage came in forms no one expected. Edrin's father approached, standing beside him now. He placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "You've done what many adults could not, Edrin. You've faced fear and acted when others would have fled. I am proud of you." The boy nodded, smiling faintly. He felt a warmth in his chest, a mixture of pride and relief. He had chosen to stand, and that choice had changed everything. The dragon shifted again, rising slowly to its feet. Its movements were cautious, but it remained calm. It looked down at Edrin with its amber eyes, almost as if it understood what he had done. Then, in a quiet, almost ceremonial gesture, it lowered its head closer to him. Edrin reached out and touched the snout, feeling the immense warmth of the creature. It was a silent acknowledgement, a bond formed through courage and care. As the night fully descended on Cryos 7, the observation ships remained in orbit. The galaxy had seen the boy who dared to stand alone beside a dragon and the dragon who trusted him. News would spread, legends would grow, and humans everywhere would learn that courage was not always about weapons or strength. Sometimes, it was simply about choosing to act, about protecting when no one else would, and believing in life when others expected failure. Edrin stayed beside the dragon, gently guiding it to rest. His hands were tired, his body sore, but his mind was clear. He had learned something permanent. Bravery did not mean the absence of fear. It meant standing firm, choosing to care, and never walking away when someone, or something, needed you most. The galaxy watched. And it understood. The night on Cryos 7 was quiet now, except for the soft rumble of the dragon breathing and the distant hum of observation ships in orbit. Edrin Vale sat beside the massive creature, his hands still bandaged and sore from hours of care. He looked up at the stars, feeling a calm he had never known before. The red deserts of the planet stretched out endlessly, but he no longer felt small or powerless. He had faced fear, made choices, and discovered courage he never knew existed. The dragon shifted its great head, eyes glimmering with something Edrin could not name. It was as if the creature understood all that had happened, all that the boy had done. Slowly, it lowered its head until its massive snout touched Edrin's shoulder. The boy flinched slightly at the weight but then relaxed. He understood. The dragon was offering respect, trust, and something like gratitude. In that quiet moment, Edrin realized that bravery was not always recognized by others. Sometimes it was its own reward. Dr. Kalen Vale approached, moving carefully over the debris. He had watched from the shadows as his son cared for the dragon, and his heart had swelled with pride. "Edrin," he said softly, "you have done what no one thought possible. You acted when fear held everyone else back. You saved it, and yourself in the process." Edrin shook his head, feeling shy but proud. "I didn't feel brave," he admitted. "I was scared all the time. But I had to try." The dragon let out a low, steady rumble, and its tail gently brushed against Edrin's legs. The boy looked up and saw the stars reflected in its amber eyes. It had survived because he had acted, because he had chosen to care when everyone else had expected him to run. The realization filled him with warmth. Courage was not a thing you were born with, it was a choice, made over and over, in moments that mattered the most. Observers in orbit were still watching. Scientists, medics, and leaders had all transmitted reports back to their home systems. Images of the boy and the dragon were circulating rapidly, and messages of disbelief and admiration poured in. No one had ever seen a human act so calmly and effectively in the presence of a creature so feared and revered. Many were inspired, realizing that size, strength, or experience did not define bravery. Choice did. The dragon slowly rose to its feet. Its movement was careful, deliberate, but steady. It tested each leg and wing, shaking off the stiffness of hours lying wounded. Edrin stood beside it, his small hand resting on its massive side. "Take your time," he whispered. "You're strong now. You can do this." The dragon rumbled again, almost as if answering him. Its enormous eyes met his, and in that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. The soldiers who had once threatened the creature now lowered their weapons completely. They had witnessed something extraordinary. A boy protecting a dragon, acting without fear of consequence, showing patience, care, and determination. They realized that human courage was not always loud or violent. Sometimes it was quiet, steady, and stubbornly unwavering. And in that quiet courage, legends were born. Edrin's father knelt beside him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You have changed how we all see this galaxy, Edrin," Kalen said. "Not because of your strength but because of your heart. You chose to act when no one else could. You showed that bravery is not about fighting, it's about caring." Edrin smiled faintly, feeling a warmth he had never known. He had stepped out of his father's shadow and found his own place in the universe. The dragon stretched its wings carefully, lifting them slightly to test their strength. It took a few slow steps forward, each movement cautious but confident. Edrin stayed close, ready to assist if needed. Then, with a powerful yet controlled leap, the dragon rose slightly above the ground, flapping its wings carefully. The wind from its movement brushed against Edrin's face. The dragon paused in midair, looking down at him one last time. Its eyes were filled with trust, respect, and a silent promise that it would not forget. Edrin felt a strange mixture of pride, relief, and sadness. He knew the dragon would leave soon, returning to the stars where it belonged. But he also knew he would never forget this moment. He had faced fear and acted with courage, showing care when it mattered most. The bond between him and the creature was proof that even the smallest hands could make a difference in the vast galaxy. As the dragon lifted higher, it let out a powerful roar that echoed across the red deserts. It was not a roar of anger or fear, but one of triumph. Edrin raised his hand in a small wave, feeling the wind from its wings brush past him. He whispered softly, "Goodbye, and thank you." The dragon's roar carried a sense of acknowledgement, almost as if it understood the words and the meaning behind them. The observation ships slowly moved away, leaving Edrin and his father standing in the hangar. The galaxy had watched and a lesson had been learned. Bravery was not always measured in weapons or battles. Sometimes, it was measured in quiet actions, in compassion, in the courage to act when fear threatened to hold you back. Edrin had found that courage and it had changed everything. As the night deepened over Cryos 7, Edrin and his father walked through the hangar together. He looked at the stars above, feeling a new sense of purpose. He was no longer just a boy hiding behind his father's courage. He was a human who had chosen to act when no one else could, a boy who had saved a dragon, and a boy who had discovered bravery he never knew he had. Edrin took a deep breath, feeling the calm of the desert night and the weight of his new understanding. The galaxy was wide, full of dangers and wonders, but he knew now that courage could grow in anyone. It was not about size or strength but about choice, heart, and the willingness to act when it mattered most. And in that quiet, infinite night, Edrin Vale knew that bravery was not something he had to find. It had always been inside him. All he had to do was choose it.